A closer look at Jin Ping Mei Chapter 33. Wang Liu appears. Shang Ailing said that life is full of little worries like gnawing. In Chapter 33, nothing big seems to have happened, but troubles are filling everyone's hearts, and they are everywhere. Let's see, there are 10 troubles this time. First, Simon King hates Mrs. Liu. When Simon King came back from drinking, the first thing he said was to ask Young whether Guanji's milk was better. It can be seen that Young Nai's official brother made Simon King, who was homeless all day, a little more worried. When he heard that Young said that Mrs. Liu had seen her and she had fallen asleep, his reaction was, "I believe that old whore is doing acupuncture, so it would be better to ask a pediatrician to see her. Since she is better, let's go. If it's not good, take her to the Yemen and have sex with an old whore." Simon King hates Mrs. Liu very much. What he dislikes subconsciously may be the relationship between Young and Mrs. Liu, because it has always been these women who walk around the streets all day long that have ruined the atmosphere in the inner house. He is well aware of this situation. He has fallen in love with women from other families through these people. Why is he willing to let Young get close to them? Second, the relaxation of the botline. The Swiss movie Married Life. The couple were showing off their affection in front of the camera one day. But the next day the husband announced that he was tired of married life and wanted to run away from home. What's dramatic is that 10 years later, they met after divorce and found that they still loved each other deeply. So, what caused their marriage to unravel? What the film conveys to us is that marriage is like a living creature that needs to breathe naturally. After Simon King and Pinger had brother Guan, Simon King was obviously very attached to Pinger and would always step into Pinger's house unknowingly. At this time, Pinger was rich, beautiful, loving, and had children. It seemed that he had taken all the happiness in the world, and he became more gentle and considerate. Her relaxed state allows Simon King to breathe naturally under the squeeze of his wives and concubines, which meets the spiritual needs of middle-aged men. The other wives and concubines had no children and lacked the warmth that a human family should have, which was unsatisfactory. Young liked to blame him. Jinlian was a madman, and he needed to use his strength to compete with her to find fun. Jr and Zui were not here in his heart. Yulu is very good. He is dignified, but he lacks a kind of delicate femininity. Third, Jinlian's jealousy and madness. However, Pinger's relaxation is a double-edged sword. She is so happy that she is vaguely worried that the happiness will overflow, so she tries to give some of it to others. Young lowered her eyebrows in front of her and was polite in front of Yulu and Gr. Jinlian was jealous the most, so Pinger deliberately pushed Simon Singh to Jinlian in an attempt to reduce the surging power that had been building up secretly and avoid being this first tears. However, her method is easy for others because everyone has their own support. But for Jinlian, who has a strong self-esteem and a strong desire for competition, it is a kind of humiliation and a charity. The further the bottle spreads out, the more Jinlian feels like she is stabbing her heart. This time, Grandma Pan came to stay at Pinger's place. Pinger asked Yingxun to arrange wine, vegetables, and fruit cakes, and also gave Grandma Pan some things. Grandma Pan showed it to Jinlian in the morning. Jinlian was sour and complained that her mother had taken other people's things. She had no choice but to arrange to return the meal during this period. Chen Jingjing passed by here looking for clothes. Jinlian asked Chen Mai to call Chen Jingjing in. Under Jinlian's teasing, Chen Jingjing drank again and finally found an opportunity to escape. However, he found that the key was lost in Pinger's room, so he had to go back to get it. Jinlian sat the key under her body and then put it into her hand and asked, "How did your key fall into my hands?" Before, Chen Jingjing got Jinlian's shoes and asked the same question. "How did your shoes fall into my hands?" "In my hands." Such questions immediately reduced Pinger, Grandma Pan and others to the background, and the air was filled with a sweetness that only the two of them could understand. Jinlian's delicate arms could not conquer the world, so they had to conquer men. Fourth, Jinlian can lie at any time Yuan Yang came and asked why Chen Jingjing was here. Jinlian pushed Pinger towards Pinger. It was unclear that it was she who insisted on calling Chen Jingjing in. She said, Sister Lee is fixing some dishes. Please ask my mother to come and sit down. Brother-in-law Chen looking for clothes. Ask him to come in for a drink. He made it clear that he was not afraid of Pinger. And Pinger really had no excuse. At this point, Pinger is really like the Spring Festival in a dream of red mansions. It doesn't even sound like an outro to when a needle pricks it. There is a misunderstanding that you think that by lowering your posture and begging for mercy, you can make the other person let you go, but it doesn't work. Because that person's appetite is a bottomless pit, and you can never feed a glutton with no sense of boundaries and endless hunger and thirst. Fifth, the thoughts of Yulu and Uniang Deveryon bid farewell to Wu de Jinzi, Miss Young, Grandma Pan, etc. Yulu, who was also lonely and wanted to have some fun, suggested that they go and see Kiao Dahu's house, and Uniang agreed. But Uniang accidentally twisted her waist while climbing the stairs. She came back with a stomachache. The pain was so unbearable that she called Mrs. Liu while Simon King was not at home, and took 2 servings of big black pill medicine given by Mrs. Liu, give it away with AI wine, and give birth to a male fetus in the middle of the night. What is extremely surprising is that Uniang did not show how sad she was for this child who had not yet come to the world. Instead, she was more grateful that Simon King rested in the room of Yulu. The fear of being punished by Simon King was greater than the sadness of losing the child. If Uniang could act, she should cry and tell Simon King, who encouraged her to look at the house, who only cared about joking and refused to come up to help her, causing her to lose her beloved son. However, she didn't. Uniang was actually an honest and somewhat rigid woman. What she values more is women's ethics. Perhaps it is because it is unethical for a housewife to sneak out without the permission of the male owner, even if it is across the street, just 2 or 3 steps away, and by the place to become her own residence. This shortcoming is an unbearable burden for Uniang, who has always relied on observing women's ethics to secure her position in the main wife. What was also intriguing was Yulu's inquiry the next morning. Yulu first asked Uniang how she was. Then he asked, didn't his father know about the abortion? Yulu was worried. After all, she was the one who proposed to see the Kiao family's house. She was a little unsure about the reaction of Uniang, who lost her son because of this. Came over to inquire, obviously concerned, but actually asking about Uniang's words. However, Uniang didn't answer the question. She preferred to mention that Simon King came to her room first. She felt uncomfortable and pushed Simon King to Yulu. On the one hand, it shows that Simon King cares about her and his position is stable. On the other hand, he wants to sell Yulu a favor. Sixth, the difference between Yulu and Uniang. Yulu seems to have a good relationship with everyone. She is like a chess player who knows the stakes in the game. She never talks much, but when she does speak, she can be very powerful. When someone provokes her, she doesn't take action personally. What she's best at is adding a little oil to the side to make the fire burn. Among Simon King's wives and concubines, she is the most sober, wisest and most stable. If we want to compare, it may be Bao Chai in A Dream of Red Mansions, but she lacks the ladylike feeling brought by erudition and knowledge than Bao Chai. Uniang has deep anxiety about her status, and is almost rigid and boring, so she has no choice but to seize the virtuous and help her. This time Uniang seemed very concerned about Pinger's child. When she went to Pinger's room, she first told Pinger that she didn't care about Brother Guan, and asked the wet nurse to hold the child and sit in the vent, because this is what a virtuous principal wife should do. Performance: she had a miscarriage and refused to make it public, saying, "It's annoying to hug an empty nest in vain." She was not stable, but felt that she had to wrong herself in this way. Seventh, Simon King's carelessness. Pinger was 7 months pregnant, but Simon King couldn't notice it and had to tell him. This time, Uniang was 5 months pregnant, but Simon King never asked about it. This has to make people lament Simon King's stupidity. I don't know that she is pregnant, which is really stupid. Knowing that she is pregnant and not asking why she doesn't give birth is the stupid person in the world. Eighth, the people of Hondao. Though Simon King and Pinger have established a relationship as a couple, this does not prevent him from always looking for new excitement outside. The most important event in this episode is Wang Liuer appears. Wang Liuer is an important woman in Jin Ping Mei. Readers often compare her with Jin Lian. Because of the importance, the author wrote about Wang Liuer and her husband Han Daoguo first. Han Daoguo's appearance has 3 levels. One is the impression of Earl Ying. The other is Simon King's sight. The other is his own performance. In Earl Ying's impression, Han Daoguo was like this. He used to be a woolen businessman, but now he has no capital. He spends his time at home, is good at speaking and writing, and behaves well. In Simon King's eyes, Han Daoguo is short in stature, 30 years old, and talkative. With a spring breeze on his face, Han Daoguo then appeared on the street and boasted to everyone on the street about his importance in Simon King, saying that 1 point is worth 10 points. Han Daoguo has no real skills, only words. He is poor in material resources and loves face. There should be many people like him in real life, but it's just a matter of degree who doesn't like to embellish his life to make it look better. However, someone suddenly came to report that his wife and Honor were living alone and were now being tied up and paraded on the street. This matter actually violated the law at the time, but Han Daoguo's reaction was very different from Wuhan University. After Wu Da heard about it, he immediately went to catch the traitor. Han Daoguo was not angry, but left in a hurry. We know that next time he will go through Earl Ying's way to rescue Wang Liuer and Honor. It can be seen that Han Daoguo has his own set of life logic, and he and Wang Liuer also have his own way of getting along with husband and wife. 9. Wang Liuer and Han Daoguo's relationship. As husband and wife, Wang Liuer is a girl from the cattle slaughtering family. Like Jin Lian, she likes to dress up, likes to attract bees and butterflies, and is unwilling to be lonely. On the skin, Golden Lotus is not very white, but not dark either, while Wang Liuer's skin is purple color. Is it the whitish skin color that is popular in a small area nowadays? She married better than Jin Lian. Han Daoguo was at least a normal person, and he did not have the ideological imprint of mainstream morality on men. She gained a large degree of physical liberation and freedom. What she repays to Han Daoguo is that no matter who she is good with, she will never leave Han Daoguo. And she attaches great importance to the stability of the family and does everything possible to increase the family income. Han Daoguo grew up peacefully under his nepotism, and Honor finally married Wang Liuer and lived a long life without any worries. This is completely different from Jin Lian's experience. Although Wu Dao is short, he is deeply influenced by mainstream morality, and so is war. Wu Dao was eventually poisoned, Jin Lian was killed by Wu'er, and Wu'er himself had to join the anti-government organization to protect himself. The ending of this story breaks some of people's illusions and expectations. This also means that Jin Ping Mei does not blindly talk about karma like Yue Thatched Cottage notes. On the contrary, it expresses deep doubts about moral values. In Dream of Red Mansions, Yu Anjin and Tanshin both envied the happy atmosphere of a small family. However, if the two sisters saw such filth in a small family, would they be shocked? Perhaps they just used this envious gesture to express their desire for a harmonious and free big family. However, to embrace the most essential part of life, we must first weaken the mainstream moral values. At this point, perhaps Jin Ping Mei and A Dream of Red Mansions have reached a consensus. 10. The disgusting old man who only appears once in the whole book. Wang Liuer and Honor were tied up on the street. An old man among them said, "Uncle and sister-in-law commit adultery. It is a crime to be hanged." However, he was immediately attacked by neighbors. "Didn't your 3 daughters-in-law eat all of them? What is the crime for a father-in-law to adopt a daughter-in-law?" The old man's worry may be, how come that person knew about the well-hidden family affairs? A closer look at Jin Ping Mei chapter 34. The circle of intercession. At this point in Jin Ping Mei, Simon Xingzhao has grown from a small owner of a herbal medicine shop to a powerful official. Of course, the title of this big official is relative to King County. Anyway, in this territory, Simon King is very popular. He is the master who everyone fawns over. It is not an exaggeration to say that he is powerful. This time, there was a big circle going back and forth around the person he asked to invite. You connected with me, and I connected with him. The intercession was made up like a series of links, one after another. Ring, depicted sharply and joyfully. Let us first take a look at the various people who interceded. First, Han Daguo went to the government because his brother and his wife were exposed for committing adultery, and he asked the Earl to intercede with Simon King. Secondly, Eunuch Liu also went to intercede with Simon King for his brother Liu Baihu. Then the fathers and brothers of Che Dan and others who were detained once again begged Earl Ying. Earl Ying cleverly asked the book boy to intercede with Simon King. The book boy was more lively and asked the most favored Li Pinger to continue to send notes to Simon King. Intercede anyway, back and forth, no matter how big a turn it is. The final destination is the official Simon. He is the only savior in the hearts of these people. So, how powerful is Simon King? Just looking at Simon King's handling of the matter after receiving the plea, one can tell that officials like King County Magistrate are not at all interested in his 5th grade punishment. When Earl Ying brought Han Daobo to plead for mercy, Simon King said, "This post is not written like this. It's just your brother Honor." Xiang Earl said, "I will tell the county with a note during the competition. Why not just ask the local government to change the declaration form and just bring it to my Yemen tomorrow to make a decision?" Then Han Daobo fell down and kowtowed. Simon King taught Dan, "Quickly call someone from outside who agrees." After a while, a man in green clothes was called to wait on him. Simon King came forward and ordered, "Go to the Han guy's residence on Nupi Street and ask where the shop is. Tell Bo Jia, call him my Junyu and order Wang to be released immediately. Find out the names of those bachelors have been changed, and they will be brought to the criminal court tomorrow morning for hearing in my Yemen." The section level promised and took the words to go out. This description vividly depicts Simon King's arrogance and strategizing and the humble fear of the person asking for help. Just saying my Junyu can release someone immediately. Change the newspaper and posters as soon as they are told. It's different if you seek the right person. In fact, the magistrate who Simon officials don't care about is still very important. The last transfer point in this intercession is also the most important relationship between the characters in this title. The book boy, it is this magistrate who paid tribute to him. Just before chapter 31, when Simon King had just been promoted to an official position, the county magistrate lost no time and sent him an 18-year-old boy named Xiao Jiangsong. Simon King changed his name to Schrödinger. This is the origin of the clever and beloved book boy. As for how the county magistrate learned that Simon officials lacked a male favorite, that was his skill. However, Simon King is just a deputy punishment, and he also has a direct superior, a chief punishment named Xia Yanling. But what about the chief? I also went around to intercede. It has to be said that Simon King is very suitable for being in the officialdom, and he can do it more smoothly than his direct superiors. It is said that something happened to Eunuch Liu's brother, who had some friendship with Simon Qingsu. The reason is this: Eunuch Liu's brother Liu Bai, who earned a few taels of silver by managing the reed field and the river. He bought a new village in Validian and built a house with royal wood. Recently, he was hired by my Yemen to do some work. The official listened and surrendered. According to Jia Longxi, I spared him 100 taels of silver, and I also asked him to send me to the provincial court. Note here that the boss of Simon officials did not do anything after receiving the money, and even continued to send money to the province. Then they arrived at Simon King's place. Eunuch Liu panicked and came to me personally with 100 taels of silver. He asked me repeatedly to get it right. To tell you the truth, our family is doing a small business, and we are getting by. How rare is it that he has such money? Eunuch Huang Liu usually interacts with me and often accepts some courtesy from him, but today, because of these things, he has become thin-skinned again. I didn't accept him at all and only asked him to demolish the house overnight. Go to the Yemen here. I only hit his family member Liu Sen 20 times, and then he went away. Let's take a look at the ability of this high-ranking official from Simon to solve cases. Is it clean and tidy and leaves no further trouble? Finally, Simon King judged his boss unceremoniously in front of the Earl. He is greedy and greedy. He doesn't care about anything, and he just lets the money go. What's the point? I resisted over and over again. Although you and I are military officials, We have to show some dignity when we are in charge of this punishment. This probably means you do things after receiving money, but if you don't do things, you don't have any dignity at all. I can't handle it yet. Regarding this public case, there is no big fanfare about the front. But the details of intercession and handling of affairs from beginning to end are revealed in the chat between Simon King and Earl Ying. I am afraid that only Count Ying, the follower, understands his natural and unrestrained demeanor, as well as his arrogant, smart and proud attitude. I often feel that Earl Ying can be regarded as the sole figure in the Golden Book, and he is an excellent praise master. Rather than saying that he is dependent on Simon King, it is better to say that Simon King cannot do without him. He drinks with Simon King every day, listening to music, teasing, and mediating. He is well-mannered and soft-bodied. Just like this time when Earl Ying came to drink lotus wine and eat bad anchovies. It was actually a win-win situation. The Earl was satisfied with his taste, and Simon King was satisfied with his ears. Since ancient times, has this really been a matter of the supplicant bringing a few jars of wine and fish? This is face, this is privilege. So what's the fun in eating alone? Only when there are flattering figures like Count Ying around to flatter and make people laugh can the food be more delicious and the mind can be smoother. In the end, both of them got what they wanted. No wonder Simon King likes him so much. Neither of them can live without the other. Therefore, it is no longer a problem for the younger brother to follow the eldest brother behind his back and make a small profit by interceding from time to time. Next, the truly wonderful intercession scene is about to begin. Originally, Simon King had finished handling Han Daoguo's affairs and it was over. But the author didn't give the readers a chance to breathe at all, and then began to write the pleas of those gangsters in the market. Is it only you, Han Daoguo, who has the means to intercede? These scoundrel family members will also go around asking for help. So, these family members collected 40 taels of silver and went to Simon King's boss Jia Tixing to intercede. This time Jia Tixing very wisely advised them to ask Simon King arrive at Earl Ying's place. Not to mention that his wife was shocked and accused him. You have helped Brother Han and manipulated this person. So how can you take this money and do whatever is convenient for him so as not to offend Brother Han? We judges were also stunned. But what difficulty could overwhelm the clever Count Ying? In order to save the money, the Count immediately took out 15 taels, found a stand-in book boy to intercede, and went to help the plaintiff. Obviously, wasn't this a typical case of eating the plaintiff and eating the defendant? It turns out that this intercession routine was already popular in Qing County in the Ming Dynasty. Who doesn't love silver? Besides, who doesn't want to show off their charm that they can get things done? The book boy naturally agreed, but the book boy was also very powerful. He said a watertight click. Since I'm the second father, I'll give it to him and get another 5 taels. Yesterday, Uncle Wu came in person to tell my father that he didn't agree to it. The little bastard-faced boy. What a big-hearted man. Tell the truth to my second father, instead of using the money alone. I also broke some bills and told my mother-in-law, Liu Niang, to help him in a roundabout way. He said it was his fault. The book boy justifiably asked for an extra 5 taels of silver and raised a big flag to make a tiger skin and moved directly out of Liu Niang. People said that it was not enough for Uncle Wu. So I went to intercede. It may take a lot of effort. Anyway, when I saw this, I started to naively think, what is the price of the book boy's intercession fee? No matter what, it's only 1,000 or 80,000 taels. Unexpectedly, I didn't expect that the cost of intercession for a book boy is as low as only 1 septillion. He went to Li Pinger to intercede, and with a few words, he hit the mark. Don't say it's a small talk. I'm just pretending to be a messenger on the other side of Uncle Hua. I wrote a message in the front study. Inside, I just said that it was my mother who passed it on to the younger one, so I can teach him. My mother added another kind word. Besides, my father had already beaten him in the Yamen yesterday, and he cut him off randomly and let him go. It was also the boss's fault. Why do you pretend to be a flower uncle? Didn't Uncle Wu say that it was not possible before? because Uncle Hua's sister, although she is not a real sister, is favored after giving birth to the official brother. So the main wife Wu Yunyang's limelight will be a little lower now. This face is what she has to give. You add a few nice words, not only for yourself, but also because of the boss's evil predilection. At this moment, is there anything more important than Brother Guan? Can Ping not take it seriously when it comes to cultivating negative virtues for her children? This book boy has really understood the essence of intercession. So, from the beginning to the end, those white coins were flowing in the circle of intercession. Everyone used every trick at every step to steal some money and put it into their own pockets. The $4 contributed by the rogue family members, the 15 taels of silver, were put to real use, and were deducted a little bit by the lover. But everyone got what they wanted and lived in peace. After reading the whole article, it is found that only in Li Ping's case, the 2 or 5 yuan is just a small prop for the book boy to make her happy. It can buy some food and wine to enjoy the occasion, but it is not enough to hang her ears. But it just so happened that the most inconspicuous food and drinks on this table became extraneous. The book boy gave the leftovers he had bought from Ping to the other servants, but he forgot to give them to Ping. Then Ping was sitting at the front of the gate with his mouth wet. I didn't expect Simon King to pay homage to the guest from outside the door in the afternoon, and Ping didn't say anything when he saw it. See, this is a recipe for trouble. Anyway, this intercession case in which both the plaintiff and the defendant were mixed came to a relatively happy ending. After the book boy also made actual physical contributions to the male protagonist, but Ping, who was missed out, refused to give up, and reported the whole incident to Pan Jinlian, the most trouble-provoking and jealous person in the Ximen mansion. Pan Jinlian was brooding over Li Ping's mother-in-law, but she didn't expect that there would be endless love rivals around her. She didn't expect that even when the servant came to pick her up from her parents' home, Ping would have to remind Simon King. Jin Lian was full of hatred and laughed at herself. As I just treat myself as dead. She came back from Grandma Pan's house in anger, broke into Li Ping's room, and taunted Simon King and Ping with guns and sticks. In the territory of Ximen Mansion, the chain effect caused by intercession is just a trick, and you are destined to witness many vulgar things where money and money collide, lust is flowing, and the bottom line is exceeded. However, I can still catch a little bit of faint light from this dark space of words. It's that little, soft little creature that was just born. That was the beginning of this chapter. When Earl Ying approached Simon King to intercede, Simon King brought out a pair of rulers, one big red silk and one green silk, and taught Li Ping to cut sweaters, coats, vests, head protectors, etc. for Brother Guan. They spread them on the Kang. Wearing a bright red felt strip, her breasts are holding her brother, and she is holding onto the iron in the spring. Does this warm picture look like the most ordinary daily life of a loving couple in the world? The evil man Simon King, who holds the power of life and death for ordinary people in King County, will also suspend all hospitality affairs, watch the clothes being cut, and come out in plain clothes. Because of this beautiful and gentle little life, Simon King glows with the warmest light of humanity at this moment. It is a rare pure fragment in this book, and the rarest beautiful moment in his family, at least at this time. The scene is different from the ugliness. Nothing to do. A closer look at Jin Ping Mei chapter 35. Simon King is not gay. Let's see, this time the book boy is a smart man. He knew that Simon King doted on him, but after all, he was just a lover. When a lover speaks softly and tenderly, he will naturally respond to his requests. But in retrospect, the other party felt that the relationship was not pure, and that they had a bad experience of being taken advantage of. Although Simon Dogwin is now both a businessman and an official, he does not care about value exchange. And if he is taken advantage of, he will not feel "love me, don't love me, my heart is surging." But the reason why smart people are smart people is that they can worry about sorrow. Obviously, Pan Jinlian's pampering and arrogance are not found in Shatong. Simon King and Li Ping are husband and wife. In the final analysis, they have a cooperative relationship. They talk directly when they have something to do and talk to each other when nothing happens. It is only natural that Li Ping'er should seek help from Simon King when he has something to do. Sure enough, Li Ping'er spoke easily, and Simon King agreed. The cleverness of Shetong lies in the fact that he accomplished big things with only a small amount of money. Not only did he make Li Ping'er feel comfortable, but he was not suspected of interfering in the affairs. The relationship between him and Simon King continued to be pure and pure. Li Ping'er and Simon King also have a deeper relationship and more pleasant cooperation. Earning more than 18 taels of silver is easy and safe. In letting Che Dan and the other four people go, it can be said that everyone is satisfied and everything goes as they wish. But there is no such thing as perfection in the world. And 3 people will be very unhappy. One is Ping Ener. The book boy asked Li Ping'er to do some work and bought some food and wine. Li Ping'er barely touched it, and the book boy, who knew how to be a good person, brought it and asked everyone to share it. It's probably not intentional not to invite Ping Ener. It's just that there were too many people to invite. And I forgot, Ping Ener, too, joined in to eat, but he didn't. On the one hand, he felt that he was not qualified to enjoy it, and on the other hand, he held a grudge. The inferiority complex of people who are too humble is so strange. The master beats and scolds them, but if people of the same status are slightly less thoughtful, they will never be able to overcome the obstacles in their hearts. Wu Yunyang's words were useless. The most useful Li Ping'er and Shetong had already formed a pair, so Ping Ener went to Pan Jinlian to complain. By coincidence, Li Aner ate the candy given by the book boy and told the book boy that Ping Ener would sue you. It's okay for Ping Ener to form an alliance with others, but to form a pair with Pan Jinlian is fine. The book boy took action first. He is very measured and professional. To put it nicely, Simon King has tea in hand. He slowly came closer and stood at the table. After a long time, Simon King made a mouthful and asked him to close the door, put his arms in his arms, and held his face with one hand. Simon King stuck out his tongue, and the young man handed it to him with phoenix-flavored pancakes in his mouth, and then got jade stems for him. Simon King asked, "My son, no one is bullying you outside." The cleverness of the book boy is that he does not act coquettishly or get angry, but just stays with him silently, with a look that is gentle, begging for mercy, and asking for protection. Simon King opened his mouth and asked, "Have you ever been bullied by someone?" The book boy then sued Ping Ener. Pan Jinlian also laid a dragnet to catch Simon and Shetong. Chen Mai, who got the news and came to catch the traitor, was a step too late. When she walked in, she saw Simon King sleeping while Shetong was ranging the 4 treasures of the study on the desk. The book boy's complaint made Simon King furious, and he said to the book boy, "It doesn't matter if I don't remove the slave's legs." Soon, Simon King found a reason to beat Ping Ener violently. Simon King was alone in the world. After the death of his first wife, he was alone again. The desire to marry 10 brothers was not only an ambition, but also a need to seek social relationships. With the improvement of status and wealth, the original 10 brothers, Earl Ying, Si Zida, and Ben Si, continued to become brothers in the survival of the fittest, and even formed a relationship with Earl Ying. Some brothers gradually disappeared. When facing a friend who is getting rich quickly and extremely quickly, you have to crawl to his side. Cutting off Simon King's network was a huge loss in life. And willing to accept it, several brothers sent by Lai Guang to come and get married. Ping Ener stopped him several times, but Bai Lai Guang didn't flinch. "If you quit this time and will never see your elder brother again in the future, what else can you do besides carrying on shamelessly to the end? If you are not there, I will wait. If you are not welcomed, I will go and buy myself. If no one invites you to sit, I will find a chair to sit on." Bai Lai Guang just waited and finally met Simon King head-on. What does Reggie's brother Bai Lai Guang look like to Simon King at this time? His hat is old, his clothes are torn, and his shoes are torn. Does such an image make Simon King a pitiful brother? When did Simon King become compassionate? Song Huilian's father didn't even let Simon King soften his feelings. Bai Lai Guang also wanted to use his sworn brothers to kidnap Simon King, but the situation has changed. At this time, Simon King just thought these useless brothers had lost his face. Without saying hello or ordering tea, Bai Lai just insisted on striking up a conversation. "Brother, you are so busy." Simon King named several prominent people in King County and said that he would receive them. "It's just a reminder to Bai Lai Guang, don't look in the mirror to see who I'm dealing with, don't get up on your nose, and just run to my house to eat for free." Bai Lai Guang reluctantly mentioned that the brothers hadn't been together for a long time. Simon King was very cold. "It's up to you, but you don't have to come and tell me." Probably, Bai Lai Guang also knew that this was the last time they would see each other, so he just stayed put until the end. Simon King finally accompanied him for a simple guest meal before leaving. In the past, many delicious and fun things were shared, including the good-looking sister Li Gui, and brothers could all take advantage of it. Nowadays, you have to be shameless to have a simple meal. 2 days later, Simon King invited Earl Ying to dinner. Not only did he eat the crabs that Mr. Zhu, who was in charge of the village, gave to Simon King, but he also responded to every request. Earl Ying wanted to listen to music, so he asked his favorite book boy to sing a song for Earl Ying. The warmth and coldness of human relationships here are probably only felt by empathetic writers. However, more often than not, there is no difference between humans and animals. For food rations, they always distinguish between useful and useless. Those that make people happy, useful, can add glory, and can help will naturally gradually surface. And those that rely on, be dilapidated, and useless will gradually be eliminated and excluded. Besides Li Pinger, who can talk to Simon King about emotions. Even if it's Li Pinger, it should be made with money first, right? This Bai Lai Guang reminds people of a second-rate businessman. The boys complained had just landed, but the echo was still in the air and had not dissipated. Simon King, who said, "Happiness brings spring breeze, anger brings thunder and fire," did not stop for a moment before Bai Lai Guang went out. Simon King returned to the hall, pulled up a chair and sat down, and everyone called Ping Enter. When Ping Enter walked up to him, Simon King scolded him, "You thief slave, are you still standing?" The one who agreed was 3 or 4 platoons of troops standing by to wait on him. After some interrogation, Ping Enter found nothing wrong. But Simon King is not a reasonable person. Simon King ordered, "Call 2 people who are good at torture to come up and fight this slave with me." At that moment, the 2 men waited on each other, put on the finger, and just held it up. Ping was in unbearable pain and shouted, "It's true that my father is not here," so he forced himself in. The platoon of soldiers climbed up, tied up the rope, knelt down and said, "It's up." Simon King said, "Knock 50 more knocks with me." Counting beside him, he stopped when he hit 50. Simon King ordered, "Hit him with 20 sticks." He was beaten 20 times in a moment, and the skin and flesh were torn and his legs were bloody. Finally avenged the book boy. A strong man's feelings towards his pets are like a summer typhoon, strong, direct, destructive, and shockingly violent. This is the most insecure relationship, which means that when you fall out of favor, those fingers, ropes, and sticks will also be used on you. There is no tenderness in the world of Jin Ping Mei. The second person the book boy offended was Pan Jinlian. For Pan Jinlian, the good times were only in the 2-story courtyard on Xi'an West Street that Pan Jinlian from Wuhan University jointly purchased. There, a pole attracted a romantic boy, and then we spent several months of happiness with you in my heart and me in my heart. Those happiness are so touching and so short-lived. What he once thought was his whole life was just that his heart was always somewhere else. The emotions accumulated in those few months continued to evaporate in the years that followed. Pan Jinli entirely dealt with people who robbed her husband one after another, from Sun Sui at home to sister Li Gui and Wu Yin'er outside, from her brother's daughter-in-law Li Pinger to the family's daughter-in-law, Song Huilian. Nowadays, Pan Jinlian still has to compete with men for favor, but Pan Jinlian is Xiaoqiang in Stephen Chow's movie, so tenacious that she can compete with Simon King. He betrayed, and so did she. He is violent and she is violent. When it comes to torturing people, besides Simon King, who can compare with Pan Jinlian, it doesn't matter that Simon King beat Song Ren, Lai Wang, and Ping Enter. He has unrestrained power, so it's nothing more than that. It's considered moderate. Pan Jinlian did not have unconstrained power. She could kill Wu Da, Pin Qinger, repair Sun Zui, force Song Huilian to death, torture Qiu Zhu. In the future, there will be Guanjie and Li Pinger. The violent fights that Pan Jinlian did were shocking, and they were just a fight for sexual resources. However, it is also wrong to say that there is competition for resources. No matter how generously Li Pinger gave away her sexual resources, Pan Jinlian never stopped fighting. Because what was really hurt was Pan Jinlian's competitiveness, her betrayed love, and her self-esteem that could never be restored. In terms of self-esteem and love, she must be completely equal to Simon King, because she was willing to lower her head for him, then lower her head, then lower her head again. The past has become the smoke of the past. He continues to conquer all kinds of women, and she wants it too. Now that he has launched an attack on the man, how can she retreat? Pan Jinlian is so smart. Pingener who took refuge in her was repaired. Could it be as simple as Pingener not looking at the door? Naturally, it was because Pingener tipped him off. And Simon King wanted to protect Li Pinger in Shetong. An ordinary woman would have been frightened into obedience, but how could Pan Jinlian be such a good woman? If she can be frightened, Zhang Da whose wife's punishment can make her behave. War's warning can make her behave. Simon King's whip can make her behave. But a strong person knows better that once he gives in, he will be worse than the one he bullied in the first place. People are 100 times worse. Faced with Simon King's massive punishment, Pan Jinlian didn't feel the slightest fear in her heart, nor did she feel any pity that the person she needed was being repaired. Nor did she give up to Simon King at all. While talking and laughing, he pointedly pointed out that it was none of Bai Lai Guang's business. Jin Liang said, "Now in this family, there are only two people who are very happy to him. One is inside and the other is outside. They seem to have their souls resting on him all day long. They talk and laugh when they see each other. We don't have it. Good luck." He acts like a black-eyed rooster, a robber who changes his mind at the right time. Tong has charmed his heart, and now he is in love with him. But when he comes home, he is in the study. Today I make Chan my scream. When he came, who would have thought that the door was closed with the thieves and barbarians in broad daylight? Chan Mai pushed open the door and went in, bluffing everyone into confusion. When he got into the room, he taught me to curse as many times as he could. He only cared about he was hiding something. He first offered me a piece of red yarn as a token of worship, but I didn't want it. Then he went upstairs to look for Li Pinger. The thief was cowardly and knew he was in the wrong, so he took a knitting set from his box. "Come and give me the golden clothes yourself, but I just don't want them." He panicked and said, "Sister, why are you so fussy about it? My sister also has to choose the shirt and the skirt. After reading it, I can take it to the front and teach Chen my brother-in-law rode to him. It took me a long time before I vomited. He asked me to ask for my shirt. Such a steely mouth. Everything in the world is an illusion." When she opened her mouth, she was as angry as a tiger. Anything like punishment, wealth and beauty, or molestation all came to Pan Jinlian's mouth. And she had to bow her head. Either she was bullied, or she was scolded, or she was so embarrassed that she covered herself up, or she was forced to bribe Pan Jinlian by being submissive. Some commented, "It's so hateful to have such a sharp tongue. I wish I would never see such people again." The third person the book boy offended was named Earl Ying. Earl Ying's eloquence was never used in overt competitiveness. But Earl Ying is more competitive than Pan Jinlian. A gentleman takes revenge, and it is never too late in 10 years. Anyone who embarrasses him will be able to make amends for him. Let's first try to get him to take revenge on Sister Li Gui. In the 12th chapter, Simon King and Sister Li Gui had a heated fight. Ying Earl took advantage of it and compared Sister Li Gui to the freshest tea in spring, a basket worth 1,000 gold. This was supposed to help Sister Li Gui raise her social status, but the arrogant Sister Li Gui he told jokes and sarcastically mocked all the helpers present. "If you don't know how to hire people, you will only eat them in vain." This forced Earl Ying and Zishi to immediately search for money and items and bought a banquet to treat the guests. Later, Sister Li Gui fell out of favor and Simon King was promoted to a higher punishment. Earl Ying and Simon King were as good as brothers. So, in chapter 32, Earl Ying took revenge. He smiled and said to Uncle Wu, "Sister Li Gui no longer wants to be a bitch. Seeing that the Lord has become an official, she is willing to accept her as her goddaughter. It is his duty to sing and serve the wine at the Lichun courtyard, so don't do it. Get used to him." Sister Li Gui's face was completely lost in front of her fellow sisters and a group of VIP customers. This is Earl Ying. Taking advantage of Simon King's power, he took the lead as a lobbyist to make a profit. Compared with Earl Ying, he was a young book boy. The age is there, and several things can happen. Simon King's pampering had just begun, so it was the book boy's turn to tell the truth. After interceding for Che Den and others, Earl Ying believed that the book boy's role was only worth 15 taels, but the book boy said that it was still worth 5 taels. Earl Ying agreed and quickly brought 5 taels. On the surface, he was calm and clear, but in fact, he wrote down this account. Judging from the inseparable relationship between Simon King and Earl Ying at this time, cleaning up the book boy is really a piece of cake. No. Within 2 days, the book boy realized how powerful Earl Ying was. The wives and concubines all went out to visit, and Simon King invited Earl Ying, Zida, and Han Daobo to come to his house for dinner and drinks. After eating the rare crab, the Earl said, "It doesn't count if you sing 10,000 songs. You pretend to be like a dragon, like a tiger, and paint on the bottom to dress up like a danner." The book boy was sitting at the table, looking only at Simon King's appearance. Simon King laughed and scolded the Earl. "You are a bitch. You only want to pester people." He said to the book boy, "Since he has taken you away, teach Diana to dress up after asking your sister for clothes." Simon King knew that the book boy had been taken away, but he did not hesitate to let the book boy please Earl Ying. The book boy had to dress up obediently, including a silver hairpin, a combed back, fairy clothes, a pair of gold and fake green stone pendants, a red pair of silk shirts, a green heavy silk skirt, and purple pins and gold hoops. "I want it." I put some powder on and put it on in the study. She looked like a woman, dressed very gracefully. Walking by the banquet, I handed a glass of wine to Earl Ying with both hands, opened my throat, and sang Jade Hibiscus beside him, said, "The residual red is floating on the water, and the plum branches are small. Who can describe the pale eyebrows at this time? Because spring brings sorrow. Why does it linger after spring has gone? After we say goodbye, the mountains are far away and the water is far away. I will count them for you." On the day of return, the painting was damaged slightly. To put it bluntly, book boys were just male geishas that were popular at the time. Jiangnan was the economic and cultural center of the Ming dynasty and was rich in talented people. Due to genes, climate and special products, men in Jiangnan are generally short in stature, with fair and delicate skin, and they speak Wunong's soft language, which makes them even more charming. Therefore, male geishas basically come from the south of the Yangtze River, mainly Suzhou and Hangzhou. Now, they are just standard pretty boys. After being trained, they were taken care of by royal princes, bureaucrats, landlords, and wealthy businessmen. On the surface, she is a gent, a book boy, and a gentleman, but in fact she is a high-end male geisha. It's just that the people they serve are not ladies, but men who love tomboyish style. After the boy finished singing, Earl Ying drank and poured 2 cups. The Earl said, "Eat some for me." The boy said, "Young ones don't dare to eat. They don't know how to eat." The Earl said, "If you don't eat, I'll be annoyed." "How can I reward you?" The book boy just looked at Simon King. Simon King said, "That's all right. You should eat as your second father rewards you, who has the final say who is higher and who is lower." Only then did the book boy know who Simon King loved. Earl Ying as a guest, and he, the book boy, is just a male prostitute who wants to be summoned. There is jealousy from Pan Jinlian and others inside, and strife from Earl Ying and others outside. From then on, the book boy no longer dared to be arrogant. After Li Pinger passed away, he no longer had strong protection, and his affair with Yu Xiao was caught by Pan Jinlian. The book boy knew that his position was not guaranteed and that he would never have a good life in Simon Mansion, so he stole some things and ran away. The book boy was a unique gift given by Li Jixian after Simon King became an official. How did he know that Simon King was a good man? This seems to be a mystery, but it's not a mystery. It was only in modern times that heterosexuality for the purpose of procreation became the mainstream with absolute dominance and put pressure on homosexuality. In ancient times, homosexuality, especially gay men, was the mainstream view of true love. This is true at all times and in all countries. Platonic love talks about true love between men, but Duanzhu Longyang talks about same-sex love in Dream of Red Mansions. Zhu Pan, Xing's uncle Jiazhen, Jilian and others are all inspired by Longyang. When the Ximen mansion gathers beauties with different styles and temperaments, such as Li Ping'er, Pan Jinlian, Meng Yulu, Chan Mai, etc., the more exciting sexual journey will naturally develop into a male favorite. Therefore, Simon King is not a gay man. The highest level of gift-giving is none other than Li Jixian. A closer look at Chapter 36 of Jin Ping Mei, One True and One False. There are two champions. Plot of Chapter 36 is simple and calm except for Wu Yunyang. None of Simon King's other women showed up. This is rare in the entire Jin Ping Mei, but that doesn't mean this time isn't important. This time is very important in connecting the past and the future. In the previous episodes, Simon King was implicated in the crime of his in-law Chen Hong. He asked Li Bao to go to Tokyo to investigate the case and seek a way out of the crime, after successfully escaping from the crime through the path of Grandmaster Kai. Simon King returned the favor and sent a huge gift to Kai Jing on his birthday. This huge congratulatory gift moved even Kai Jing, who had seen great battles, and immediately gave Simon King the official position of Deputy Qianhu. And even errand boys Li Bo and Wu Dian were given good jobs. It is true that misfortunes lie on the back of blessings, and blessings lie on the backs of misfortunes. Kai Jing's housekeeper Zai Jin became as close as a brother to Simon King, whom he had never met before. He asked Li to keep the letter and asked Simon King to find a beautiful girl of 15 or 16 years old in King County to be his concubine and give birth to a child, son. Simon King, who had been promoted to an official and had a son, was immersed in unprecedented satisfaction. How could he still remember Zai Qian's request for a little wife? I forgot all about it in the blink of an eye. It is estimated that Zai Jin didn't even wait for his little wife to show up, so he had to write a letter to urge Simon King. In addition, he was informed that the Grand Master's godson, the new champion, would be passing through King County when he went home to visit his relatives, so he asked Simon King to entertain him warmly. In fact, he came here specifically to rip off Simon King. After Simon King read the letter, he naturally felt anxious and regretful, and quickly discussed countermeasures with Wu Yunyang. After Simon King read the letter, he just sighed and said, "Hurry up," and asked the boy to call the matchmaker. "I have forgotten about my life." And Wu Yunyang, who usually doesn't seem very bright, always has a clear mind and calmness at such critical moments, and is very capable of making suggestions for Simon King. She suggested that while writing a reply to Butler Zai, she said that the woman had been found, but the clothes and makeup were not ready yet, and that she would send someone to deliver her as soon as they were ready. Here, quickly find a matchmaker to find a good girl who meets the conditions. When that man comes tomorrow, you have more money with him, and write a letter to reply to him. Just say that the woman has been found, but the clothes and makeup have not been packed. How long will it take to finish? Send someone here, send it away. You can teach me here. It's not too late for someone to find someone for him. Only by killing two birds with one stone can you do good things, and it's because someone asked you to do it. What a delaying tactic. Simon King also had to admire his wife's clever trick. If you want to find a girl, you have to be a matchmaker. There are quite a few matchmakers who deal with Simon King. This time only Feng and Zhu are named, which is a clever arrangement made by the author. Miss Qian Xiaofei said in Qiu Shutang on the Plum and the Golden Ping. The matchmaker's name specifically mentions Feng and Zhu in order to reveal the wind, snow and coldness and the excitement. Qiu Shutang also said, the omission of Wang Po and Wen Sao was a preparation for their later comeback. It also showed that Jin Lian was alienated from Wang Po. She did not want to think about a past period in the Wu family. After the Chen family fell, Simon alienated Wen Sao. Because Mrs. Wen acts as a matchmaker for sister Simon and Chen Jingji, Simon King's previous plan to send the embroidered spring in Ping'er's room to replenish the money was abandoned due to Yun Young's opposition. But the maids of Simon Mansion did not escape the fate of being sent to Zijin in the end. This is something to talk about later. Let's not mention it for now. The job of finding someone was assigned to the matchmaker, and Simon King concentrated on completing another thing Zijin had told him in his heart, which was to warmly welcome and entertain Kai Juanyuan and his party. Simon King's warm reception to Kai Juanyuan was, on the one hand, because Zijin had entrusted him with a task that had not been done well, and he had to devote himself to this task, and on the other hand, it was related to Kai Juanyuan's identity. He was not only the new champion, but also Kai Jing, a new godson. People, not only must they be born at the right time, they must also be born with a good surname. If Kai Yun hadn't been related to Grandmaster Kai because of his surname, he might not have been the one to become the #1 scholar. The origins of this #1 scholar are erroneous, and it is written both openly and covertly in the book. The judge heard that when In Chen won the first prize, the officials said that he was the younger brother of In Dun, the prime minister of the previous dynasty, and a descendant of a party member, so he could not be a quietus. His own had no choice but to promote Kai Yan to the first place and make him the champion. He fell in love with Kai Jing and became a fake person. When you are promoted to secretary, you can save business. And when you are promoted to secretary, you can save your relatives. What is clear is that he was not the #1 pick in the first place. It was the #1 pick who had problems with his political examination and was kicked out, so he had the chance to be selected as the #1 pick. The officialdom and the examination room were mixed together, and the examination room no longer had the right to independently select talents. This was actually a bad habit formed since Wang Anqi's reform. By this time, it had become difficult to change. What's more, his own may not want to change it. This is so good. Let whoever you want to be the #1 scholar be the #1 scholar. If the #1 scholar can write and draw better, can he write articles, and can he govern the country? Who cares? The implicit jab refers to the implicit here. It tells a secret story that the author wants to say but cannot express clearly. The book says that Song Hizung was forced to deprive In Chen of his title of #1 scholar because of the obstruction of Yanguan. Isn't this very similar to how later Emperor Gaozong couldn't tolerate Yu Fei and wanted to kill him? But he still had to build a memorial arch to make everyone think that Emperor Gaozong was under the instigation of Qin Hui and had to issue an unwarranted execution order. In fact, this is the embodiment of the emperor's will. He has no last resort at all. The Indun here, the real Zhang Den in history, was a person whom Hizung held a great grudge against, because Zhezong died suddenly without a will, and he had no son. The queen mother and most ministers agreed that Hizung, then King Duan, would inherit the throne, but Zhang Dun publicly expressed his opposition in the court. How could Hizung let him go so easily when he came to power? Therefore, there is no last resort, but simply cannot wait. The plot of the dislocation incident of the #1 scholar here is very much borrowed from the story of the famous Su Dongpo, Zhang Dun's contemporary and friend, who he later harmed. It is said that Simon King received Kai Juanyuan and found that the one who came with Kai Juanyuan was the deposed champion in Chenan. Of course, he is now in Jinshi. The identities of the two people were reversed. In a world where black and white are reversed, it's not unusual for people's identities to be reversed. It's quite strange that In Chen, who had been pushed against, could sail in the same boat with Kai Yun without any grudges. Simon King's reception work is quite good. In contemporary times, he can be a strong competitor for the director of the Beijing office in various places. He ate, drank, chatted, gave money and gifts, and truly provided all-round hospitality without any blind spots. Professor Ma Ruofang said in his detailed explanation of Jin Ping Mei that Simon King took a fancy to Kai Juanyuan, a blue-chip stock, so he was so generous to him. I don't think Simon King was interested in Kai Yan's potential and ability at this time. But he couldn't ignore his identity as Kai Jing's godson, nor could he ignore Butler Jai's instructions. In the future, after Kai Juanyuan appointed the Salt Patrol censor, his reward to Simon King actually far exceeded Simon King's expectations. It can only be said that Simon King, who is on the rise at this time, has such good luck that it is irresistible. Whether it is official luck, wealth luck, or sex luck, he is extremely lucky. Especially this last luck, with the completion of Feng's mother's mission, will officially kick off a new chapter in the next chapter.
Alright, this part of the story ends here.
Want to know what happened next? Let's listen to the breakdown next time.